When you stay silent, thinking you're protecting yourself or trying to test how much he cares, you're not creating clarity, you're creating confusion. And confusion in a man's mind doesn't lead to breakthroughs, it leads to withdrawal. It's easy to believe that silence is a form of power, that by withholding your thoughts and emotions, you're maintaining control over the situation. But in reality, silence isn't power, it's uncertainty. And uncertainty doesn't make someone chase you, it makes them question everything. Imagine being on the other side of that silence. When someone stops communicating, when they hold back what they're feeling, it doesn't spark clarity, it sparks doubt. And that doubt doesn't always manifest as someone realizing how much they miss you. Sometimes it manifests as someone assuming the worst. Did I do something wrong? Is she pulling away because she's lost interest? Should I even keep trying? These thoughts don't breed connection. They create distance. A man who is confused doesn't fight harder for you. He starts preparing for the possibility of losing you. We have this idea that by not saying anything, we're somehow teaching someone a lesson, making them step up, making them value us more. But silence isn't a lesson. It's an avoidance. It's an avoidance of the real conversation that needs to happen, the conversation that could actually create change, deepen understanding, and strengthen the relationship. And if the goal is to make him realize something, to make him see you differently, to wake him up to your worth, then silence is the least effective way to do it. Because silence doesn't tell a person how to love you better. It just leaves them wondering what went wrong. Men don't process emotions the same way women do. Silence doesn't inspire them to dig deeper and decode what's happening. It makes them think they've already lost. And what does a man do when he thinks he's lost? He protects himself. He starts shutting down. He starts assuming that whatever connection was there is slipping away. And in that space, in that uncertainty, he begins to suffer. He suffers because he doesn't know where he stands. He suffers because the absence of your words makes him fill in the blanks with his own fears, insecurities, and assumptions. And those assumptions are often far worse than the reality. If you care about someone, if you want something to work, if you feel something deeply, your silence isn't helping them, it's hurting them. It's keeping them in limbo, unsure of how to move forward, unsure of what they mean to you. And the more time that passes, the more that silence turns into a wedge that drives you further apart. Because here's the truth, silence doesn't create connection, communication does, clarity does, vulnerability does. And the more you hold back, the less opportunity you give for that connection to strengthen. Think about it. When someone is open with you, when they share how they feel, even if it's hard to hear, doesn't that at least give you something to work with? Doesn't that allow you to understand where you stand, what they need, what they want? That's what creates progress. That's what builds relationships. Not the absence of words, but the presence of real, honest, sometimes uncomfortable conversations. And I know sometimes silence feels safer. Maybe you don't want to say the wrong thing. Maybe you don't want to seem too needy, too emotional. But the irony is, by saying nothing, you're actually saying everything. You're telling him he doesn't deserve to know what's going on in your mind. You're telling him he's not important enough to have that conversation with. And if he's someone who truly cares, that's going to hurt him more than the truth ever could. There is no strength in making someone guess how you feel. Strength is having the courage to speak your truth. Strength is knowing that the right person will appreciate your honesty, not punish you for it. Strength is realizing that if someone walks away because you expressed yourself, they were never really there for the real you in the first place. The next time you feel like pulling away, like retreating into silence, like waiting for him to figure it out, ask yourself, is this silence building something or breaking it? Is this silence bringing you closer or pushing you apart? Because I promise you, the longer you stay silent, the more he suffers. And eventually, when someone suffers long enough in the unknown, they stop waiting for an answer. They just walk away. Holding back what you truly feel doesn't protect the relationship. It creates distance. And the worst part, that distance doesn't just exist in the physical sense, It grows in the mind, in the emotions, in the unspoken moments where he's left wondering what's really going on. See, silence feels like the safe option in the moment. It feels like control. You think, if I just stay quiet, if I don't bring this up, maybe it will resolve itself. Maybe he'll figure it out. Maybe I won't have to risk saying something that makes me vulnerable. But here's what actually happens. He doesn't figure it out. He doesn't just wake up one day with the sudden realization of what's wrong. He just feels the shift. He senses the energy is different. And when a man senses that, without understanding why, it creates a rift that only gets wider with time. We've been conditioned to believe that talking about our feelings is dangerous, that bringing up an issue might push someone away. But withholding your truth is what truly pushes people away. Because the moment you start hiding your emotions, you stop showing up fully in the relationship. You stop being the person who captivated him in the first place. That fun, open, and engaging woman who made him feel alive, she becomes distant, withdrawn, unpredictable. Not because she wants to be, but because she's waiting for him to notice, waiting for him to ask, waiting for him to read between the lines. And in that waiting, the relationship suffers. Here's the thing about men. When they feel like something is wrong, but they don't know what it is, it triggers insecurity. They don't process silence the way you do. They don't analyze every micro expression or try to decode every pause. They just feel the shift and they begin to pull back too. Not because they don't care, but because they don't know how to fix something they can't see. Now, I get it. Talking about your feelings isn't easy. Being open about what's upsetting you, what's making you feel disconnected, takes courage. It means being willing to risk an uncomfortable conversation. But that discomfort is temporary. The consequences of silence, they last much longer. Think about a time when someone's silence left you feeling uncertain, when you felt the distance, but didn't know what caused it. It's frustrating, isn't it? It makes you doubt yourself. You replay conversations in your head, trying to pinpoint where things changed. Now imagine what that feels like for him. The irony is, many people stay silent because they don't want to hurt the other person. They don't want to start a conflict or make things awkward. But silence doesn't prevent pain. It prolongs it. It allows small misunderstandings to grow into major disconnects. It turns tiny cracks into gaping holes. And before you know it, you're not in a relationship anymore. You're just two people existing side by side, too afraid to say what needs to be said. So if something is on your mind, say it. If you're feeling neglected, express it. If there's a problem, address it. The moment you stop communicating is the moment you start losing the connection. Because love isn't just about attraction, it's about understanding. And understanding only happens when there's a willingness to speak and to listen. Your voice is not a weapon, it's a bridge. Use it. Because the longer you stay silent, the more he suffers. If you think silence will make him realize your worth, think again. The truth is, most men don't decode silence the way you hope they will. We don't sit there reading between the lines, analyzing every quiet moment, and magically arriving at the conclusion that we need to step up and be better. That's not how we work. When you go silent, he's left in the dark. And let me tell you something. Most men don't navigate darkness well. We don't instinctively know that your silence is a sign for us to fight harder. More often than not, we see it as a sign that we've already lost. Silence, for a man, isn't a wake-up call. It's a goodbye letter without words. You see, clarity is what drives action. When a man understands where he stands, he can make a choice. He can step up, fix things, or even walk away if that's the right thing to do. But if you don't say anything, if you just pull away and hope he gets the message, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. You think he's going to chase you, realize how much he misses you, or suddenly become the man you need him to be. But what really happens, he gets frustrated, he feels powerless, and eventually he stops trying. Not because he doesn't care, but because he simply doesn't know what he's supposed to do. Men are problem solvers. We thrive on direction. If something's wrong, tell us. If you need more from us, let us know. It doesn't mean you have to spell out every little detail, but leaving us in silence is like giving us a puzzle with missing pieces. We can't complete the picture, so we give up trying. I know. You don't want to seem needy. You don't want to be the one always bringing up the difficult conversations. But let me ask you something. What's worse? Being upfront about what you need, or watching your relationship slowly crumble because he has no idea how to fix what he doesn't know is broken? You might think he should just know that if he really loved you, he would figure it out. But love doesn't make people mind readers. It doesn't hand us a guidebook with all the answers. And silence just leaves us lost. So instead of hoping he'll magically interpret your quiet distance as a reason to work harder, give him the chance to understand what's really going on. Give him the opportunity to rise to the occasion. Because here's the thing, if he truly cares, he wants to know. He wants to show up for you. But if he has to guess, if he's forced to make assumptions, that's when doubt creeps in. That's when he starts questioning himself, questioning your feelings, questioning whether there's even a chance to fix things. And the longer you stay silent, the more he suffers in that uncertainty. You don't have to scream. You don't have to beg. You don't have to over-explain, but you do have to communicate. A single sentence, I need more effort from you, or I feel like we're not as close as we used to be, can change the entire course of your relation. It can shift his perspective, wake him up, make him see what he's at risk of losing. But silence just makes him believe he's already lost you. So if you want him to know, tell him. If you want him to change, show him how. If you want him to fight for you, don't make him fight blind, because a man who truly wants to be with you will always choose clarity over confusion. And when he sees exactly what's at stake, that's when he has the chance to rise to meet you at the level you deserve. If something is bothering you, express it. Holding it in doesn't make it go away. It makes it grow. We think that silence protects us, that if we don't say anything, we won't cause problems. But in reality, silence doesn't prevent problems. It feeds them. It gives them room to fester, to expand, to become something far worse than they ever needed to be. And here's the thing. When you don't communicate, the problem doesn't just live inside you, it seeps into the relationship. It shifts your energy. He feels it. He notices the change in how you respond, in how you look at him, in how you hesitate before you speak. And that hesitation alone, that's enough to make him wonder, to make him feel the weight of something he doesn't even understand. A strong relationship isn't about avoiding tough conversations. It's about having them. It's about recognizing that the ability to communicate, even when it's uncomfortable, is the foundation of a lasting connection. It's the ability to talk about your connection. People fear confrontation because they associate it with conflict. But confrontation isn't about attacking someone. It's about facing the truth together. It's about saying, this is how I feel. This is what's on my mind. This is what I need from you. And when you say that, you're giving him a chance to actually step up, to be part of the solution instead of being left alone in the dark trying to guess what's wrong. So many people believe that silence is a form of strength, that withholding their feelings makes them more powerful in a relationship, that if they stay quiet, if they wait long enough, the other person will somehow figure it out. But silence isn't power. Silence is avoidance. And what feels like control in the moment often turns into regret later. Because by the time you finally speak, so much resentment has built up that the words don't come out with love. They come out with frustration, with anger, with the weight of everything you've been carrying for too long. And now, instead of a simple, honest conversation, it becomes an explosion. One that leaves him feeling blindsided, defensive, and unsure of how to even fix things. You have to give people a chance to meet your needs. You have to give them the opportunity to show up for you. And that only happens through communication. When you're upset, when something isn't sitting right with you, don't let it simmer beneath the surface. Bring it to light, not as an attack, not as a demand, but as an invitation. Hey, I just want to be honest with you about something that's been on my mind. That one sentence alone sets the tone for a conversation that isn't about blame, but about understanding. And this is where real intimacy is built. It's not in the perfect moments when everything feels easy. It's in the moments when you're vulnerable enough to share what's real. Because when you do, you create a space where he can do the same. You show him that this relationship isn't just about good times. It's about navigating the difficult ones together. And that is what makes a connection truly unshakable. So stop waiting. Stop assuming he'll just figure it out. Stop thinking that silence is the answer. The longer you hold it in, the more damage it does. Not just to you, but to him, to the relationship, to the potential for something deeper. Speak. Because the moment you do, you give love a chance to grow instead of wither away in the space between words, left unsaid. When you choose silence, you might think you're creating space, that you're teaching him a lesson, that you're making him realize something he wouldn't if you just spelled it out. But what's really happening, he's left in the dark. And in that darkness, he's not becoming a better man, he's becoming uncertain, disconnected, maybe even resentful, because silence doesn't give him the lesson you think it does. It gives him doubt, it gives him anxiety, and it gives him a reason to pull away rather than step up. A lot of people think that withholding words makes them more powerful, that if you don't respond, if you make him wonder, if you leave him hanging long enough, he'll wake up and chase you. He'll suddenly appreciate you more, fight harder for you, work to understand you in a way he never did before. But let's get real about what actually happens in his mind. He's not sitting there crafting a master plan to win you over. He's wondering if you care at all. He's questioning if he already lost you and should stop trying altogether. Silence doesn't push him to be better. It pushes him to give up. Because for most men, if they feel like they can't win with you, they stop playing the game. And not because they don't care, but because they don't know how to fix something that hasn't even been explained to them. The moment a man feels like nothing he does is right, that everything is a test he's failing, he starts believing it's not worth the effort. That's when he emotionally checks out. If he means something to you, if this relationship means something to you, you have to use your words. You have to make him understand what's wrong instead of making him feel like he's failing. Because when a man doesn't know what's happening, he starts assuming the worst. And those assumptions, they're rarely in your favor. He'll assume you're losing interest. He'll assume he's disappointing you to the point of no return. And eventually, he'll assume you don't actually want this at all. You might think he should just know that if he really cared, he'd figure it out. But that's not how this works. A man who cares doesn't have a psychic ability to decode your silence. A man who cares needs a roadmap. He needs to hear what's actually going on in your mind so he can do something about it. If you tell him you feel neglected, he can adjust. If you tell him you need more from him, he has the chance to step up. But if you don't say anything, if you just let the silence linger, waiting for him to somehow arrive at the right answer on his own, you're setting him up to fail. And when someone feels like a failure, they don't rise up, they shrink. They start to feel inadequate. They start to feel like they're never going to get it right, so why even try? And that's how relationships die. Not always in one big moment, but in the slow erosion of confidence, the quiet withdrawal, the repeated feeling of never being enough. And the longer you stay silent, the more you feed that feeling inside him. But here's the thing, your voice has power, more power than silence ever could. Your ability to articulate what you need, what you feel, what you want is what creates depth in your connection. It's what makes him feel like he has something worth fighting for instead of something that's already lost. If you care about him, if you want this relationship to thrive, then silence isn't the weapon you should be using. Clarity is, honesty is, vulnerability is, because those things build something real, something that lasts, something that makes him not only want to stay, but want to be better for you. So stop waiting for him to read your mind. Stop assuming that if he doesn't get it, he doesn't care. Give him the chance to understand you. Give him the chance to show up for you. Because the longer you stay silent, the more he suffers. And the truth is, you suffer too. Your words have power, more than you realize, more than you give yourself credit for. And I want you to sit with that for a second. Because if you've ever held back what you really wanted to say, if you've ever chosen silence over honesty, you know exactly what happens next. It doesn't make the situation better. It doesn't bring you closer. It doesn't create understanding. All it does is leave the other person in the dark, wondering, overanalyzing, and ultimately suffering in ways you may not even be aware of. When you care about someone, you owe them clarity, not as a favor, not as a burden, but as a necessity. Think about the times you've been on the receiving end of silence, when someone you loved, someone you were invested in, pulled away and left you to fill in the blanks. How did that feel? Frustrating, confusing, maybe even painful. That's what happens when communication disappears. And when you hold back your thoughts, your emotions, your needs, that's exactly what he experiences. He starts questioning himself, wondering what he did wrong, or worse, assuming he isn't enough. And it's not because you meant to make him feel that way, but because in the absence of answers, the mind invents them. This is why your words matter. Because relationships don't grow in silence, they grow in conversations. Real, messy, sometimes uncomfortable conversations. They grow when two people are willing to lay their cards on the table, to speak their fears, their desires, their uncertainties. They grow when both people stop playing games and start showing up as their real, unfiltered selves. Because love isn't a puzzle for him to solve. It's not a test he has to pass. And it's certainly not about making him suffer in silence until he magically figures out what's wrong. I know why you stay silent. You tell yourself you don't want to come across as needy, as overly emotional, as difficult. You worry that saying how you feel will push him away. But let me ask you this. If being honest about what you need makes someone leave, were they really meant to stay? Because the right person, the person who truly values you, isn't going to walk away because you expressed yourself. They're going to lean in. They're going to want to understand. And if they don't, then your silence was never going to save the relationship anyway. Silence isn't strength. It's not control. It's not a weapon you should use to test his devotion or make him chase you. Real strength is the ability to say, this is how I feel. This is what I need. This is what I'm struggling with. And let's be clear. There's a difference between sharing your truth and emotionally dumping on someone. Your words have power, but it's not about unleashing them recklessly. It's about using them to build, not destroy. To bring clarity, not confusion. To create connection, not distance. And that's the point, connection. Because when you open up, when you let him into your world, you're giving him a chance to truly see you. Not the version of you that's always composed, always fine, always in control, but the real you, the one who has needs, who has feelings, who has moments of doubt, but is willing to trust him with them. That's intimacy. That's how you build something real. And here's something else I need you to remember. You are teaching people how to treat you with every conversation you do or don't have. If you never express your needs, if you always swallow your emotions, you are silently telling him that your needs don't matter. And if you do that long enough, don't be surprised when he starts believing it too. Not because he's selfish, not because he doesn't care, but because you've set the standard. And the standard you set is the standard you get. But when you speak up, when you use your voice, you set a different standard. You say, I am here and I matter. And if that makes someone uncomfortable, if that makes them pull away, then let them. Because the person who is right for you is the person who listens, the person who stays, the person who doesn't make you feel like you have to shrink yourself just to keep them around. You don't need to be loud. You don't need to be dramatic. You just need to be honest. Because silence may feel safe, but it's not where love thrives. Love thrives in words, in understanding, in the willingness to show up, even when it's hard. So if you truly care, if you truly want something real, then say what needs to be said, because the longer you stay silent, the more he suffers, and more importantly, the more you do too.